Hey everybody, welcome to the Exposition Table. I'm your host Joe,
And I'm Dan.
and on to today's episode, we're talking about Sonic Frontiers, the newest and upcoming Sonic game as of recording this video that's about to come out in about a week.
We're going to talk about our general feelings about the game leading up to it, what our hopes and expectations are. We should probably preface how much we've sort of seen ahead of time so that everyone's kind of clear when we talk about
Yeah,
things that obviously the game's already spoiled and announced are there, so people know that we're just idiots. So, I
right.
haven't really watched too many of the more recent trailers. I haven't. I watched, the overview trailers and, sort of, the glossing over, but I haven't watched any of the more extended gameplay sequences.
Pretty much same
Um,
here.
yeah, I didn't read the prologue comic. I did watch the prologue animation with Knuckles. So
Yes.
I am keeping invested, but I'm not. I'm trying to keep just enough, sort of a surprise for myself.
Yeah.
So if I say some things about the narrative, in particular with characters like Sage or whatever their name is that has already been revealed,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of us just trying to keep ourselves a little bit with a little bit of surprise. It,
Indeed.
it's been a long time since we've had a Sonic game where I'm actually excited to see what happens and don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah, this is like the first time since like 2008 that like spoilers would actually be something I'm looking out for before a Sonic game.
I mean forces, but I mean, yeah, we'll talk about. I think we'll talk about forces for a little bit at some point today.
Yeah, it's kind of inevitable.
But yeah, so I guess kind of general thoughts when the game was first announced back in the Sonic Rangers era.
Yeah, when did you show just a little bit of a taste of it at the end of a live stream showing off some stuff they were doing at the time. Early
Yeah,
2021, late 2020, or was it early 2020?
I don't really remember. At this point, it's kind of irrelevant. I think Sonic Rangers stuff kind of leaked before we got any official gameplay of it. Oh yeah, they do remember that they showed off the pre-rendered
Yeah,
CG cutscene during a Nintendo Direct, I believe, or right around the time of a Nintendo Direct.
it was like right next to one. It was an actual
Yeah,
Sonic live
I think it
stream.
was I think it was September 2020. The Sonic. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it was like the Sega weird live stream thing. Yeah, I think it was around September 2020. Also, we're recording this really late, so
yeah,
dates and stuff, they don't. We're not paying attention to that. We're here about the feeling, man.
yeah. We're talking about our experiences leading up to this game and our general attitudes as Sonic fans of this particular era.
We gotta talk about the time that you killed and the promise to help me within.
So yeah, pretty much the first teaser was basically just Sonic running through a forest, being chased by a big thing, hearing a voice, and then running really fast.
Remember how nervous we were that wisps were coming back because we
Yeah,
didn't know what the glowing
pixelated
neon was?
particle effects
Yeah,
were.
and now we luckily know what the hell that's all about. That's his Breath of the Wildisms.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of the first big thing you'll realize about Sonic Frontiers is that it's going to be an open world game.
Yeah. And that's an interesting foray. I know that we talked about when we were talking about games that we'd want to see remade. The idea of if Sonic Adventure was to get remade, that really
Yeah,
fleshing the open world, and I was really thinking a lot about Frontiers when I was talking about that, like taking each of the three main hub areas and extending it to the size of one of the biomes in this, which, if you haven't been keeping up with some of the more detailed information, you might actually not be aware that there are multiple biomes in this game. It's not all just one island,
yeah,
or not like one, singular area. There's like multiple areas, which is actually a pretty cool way to get like different zones, different feeling. One of my personal uh, one of the personal things I'm not the biggest fan of with Breath of the Wild is that obviously there's a desert area and a watered area, but a lot of the map does feel the same for the most
a
part.
lot of it
It
feels the
does have very
same,
sameness.
and those separate biomes oftentimes, as a result, feel really unnaturally small.
Yeah, Yeah, it doesn't always come together right. Whereas I feel like here, by having dedicated chunks, it really kind of is going to allow each area to, just
To feel
each
more
area is going to feel its.
individual while not
Yeah,
like bleeding into each other and struggling for map space.
yeah. And it should hopefully make the maps not have to feel excessively bloated. They'll have, three big maps and not one humongous map,
And
which I think would be a strength.
and thankfully you do have movement options to cross large areas really easily.
Yeah.
So even if it's pretty big with a lot of sparseness to it, you're controlling a character that doesn't really struggle with such an environment.
Yeah, Sonic's gotten good at being able to traverse water and other elements over the last decade or so.
Yeah.
He's figured it out.
Yeah, the fascinating thing about going open world for Sonic is that for so long Sonic's had hyper linear level design.
Yeah. Sonic games have really not been able to deviate too much from a particular format, and I think that's done very well for it over the years. But there's definitely seems like a sense now. It seems like in the last couple games, they've really struggled to find a way to keep it fresh. Um, that it feels like up until about '06 or so, it felt like they were kind of figuring out something new or trying to figure out a way to reinvent the level design.
Yeah.
And then, we don't need to get into what happened with '06, but, '06 was post '06, the franchise course corrected itself to a more traditional, almost Genesis style, game design,
Yeah.
with Unleashed and colors and all that being more level based, not as much not as
Exploration.
much overworld, yeah, not as much exploration, more about secrets. That's when what the red rings I think were introduced in either Unleashed or Colors.
Yeah.
Now the Sun and Moon medals were in Unleashed, which were the predecessor to the red rings. So it would be, well, okay, secret rings I think introduced. You know what I mean. Around that time is when we started getting recurring elements such as that and the codifying what we would define as modern Sonic.
Yeah.
So, really around that point, we've had pretty much the same style of Sonic games for almost a decade and a half now,
Mhm.
which doesn't seem that long, but if you consider where we're at now from '06 is the same amount of time it took from Genesis Sonic to '06, and there's been huge there was such a huge divergence in styles then that it is, it was a bit disconcerting that every game kind of felt the same. So even if Frontiers winds up being a disappointment, just having it be something different,
Yeah, it's
I'm all
something
here
else.
for.
Yeah.
But I personally am not in the boat where I think it's going to be a disappointment. It's just more or less I'd rather be interesting bad rather than boring mediocre.
Yeah, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. This is definitely a more fresh take on Sonic.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of how it turns out, and from the looks of it, I'm actually relatively optimistic. They've really
Yeah.
put their all into it, and they're definitely trying out a lot of stuff I've wanted to see from the series for a while.
Yeah. And if somehow it is going to turn out bad, then they're really good at cutting together trailers now. They really know what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
just comparing it to the last game, it feels like it's a clear idea of that they actually know now what the audience wants, and not just what they think. Like they clearly understand what the long-term Sonic fan base is more interested in versus just Forces, which was primarily superficial things like Shadow's a bad guy and Zavok and Metal Sonic and edge and dark color gradients and vocal lyrics and edgy bad guys and Sonic going to prison, you know.
Yeah, like all these things could be good, but it's clearly
And they
not.
have been in the past, you know.
Yeah, they
These are
have been in the
elements from
past.
some of Sonic's most iconic journeys and Zavok. Uh, and, you know, when you put them in a blender, it just doesn't. You have to actually, you can take great ingredients, but if you just throw them in a bowl, they're going to turn to mush, you know.
Yeah.
You actually know how to cook them.
Yeah.
We asked Takashi Iizuka what was he cooking, and the answer was forces.
Yeah,
He ran out of ingredients 2/3 of the way into the dish, so he had to just start taking his leftovers from the microwave and just putting them in, which is classic Sonic.
yeah. Classic Sonic in that game does control like reheated leftovers. But yeah, like pretty much like the past few years before Frontiers has kind of led to a anticipation of how they're going to step forward after a period of stagnation.
Yeah, honestly, honestly, it really does feel like they're taking a really big gamble with this one. They actually pushed it back from an anniversary year, uh, just to make sure the game was good. Which when does that happen? When's that ever happened with a Sonic game?
Yeah, like that's how you know they're serious this time.
They actually were like, no, we can make it through an anniversary by just merchandising the hell out of our brand. We don't also need to have a video game to go alongside it.
Yeah, that's what Sonic needs. It needs a really good game because otherwise, in its multimedia presence, the past few years have actually been very good for Sonic.
Yeah, Sonic's been on a hot streak, so if we can get a good game, then Sonic's just hit a slam dunk. We
Yeah,
had Sonic movies, which have basically, I think, I think the Sonic movies have done a tremendous amount of good in bringing Sonic as a brand back. Which even
yeah,
only a few years ago, Sonic was a laughing stock, as we've quite evidently talked about Forces a few times. That was only 5 years ago, and from then Sonic being even more of a laughing stock than he was before, to now we're at the point where Sonic actually, people like take the IP seriously. Like there isn't so much derision from people for being into Sonic and hotly anticipating the next Sonic experience.
yeah,
We got the two really good movies. We have the IDW comics, which sound like they keep getting better all the time. Sonic Prime is coming out, which once again, regardless if it's good or not, at least seems like it's doing something different, and that's harkening back to the classic days with like Sat AM. So
yeah,
Sonic seems like they're really in tune with what the fan base wants.
yeah. It really feels like the series has a much more stable direction now,
Yeah,
other than just trying to pander to nostalgia or
yeah.
just kind of fumbling around for a decade.
It feels like they really finally understand the Western market. It feels like for the last you know, decade or so that they've been really trying to, appeal to both the Western and Japanese market. And Sonic's always had a bit of a weird identity crisis with, the Western. Basically, like, Sonic is, despite being made by Japanese people, has always had a lot of American sort of Western spirit into himself.
Yeah,
The Sonic Adventure games were, inspired by San Francisco and South America. Um, from where the developers lived and, took their research from. Western sensibilities really kind of heavily influenced. Shadow the Hedgehog, I don't think could be a game made without people who are culturally in tune with, America,
yeah.
for better or worse. You know,
For better and for worse, Sonic has always kind of been a Western Eastern hybrid.
yeah. I mean, you look at Sonic X, and it's like the strangest thing I've ever seen. It's like this exists for the Western market, but it's also like really Japanese, but also really Western. Until Unleashed, when Yuji Naka left, and they had to really figure out who to fill that role. And while I love Unleashed, it definitely doesn't feel like the same Sonic that we had for the last decade and a half prior. And effectively, ever since then, Colors and Lost Worlds and Forces have Forces maybe a little bit less, but they've all kind of felt like games that tried to appeal a lot to the Eastern market, uh, by sort of softening Sonic up. Sonic's really not Sega's mascot in Japan. He's just kind of the guy on the logo for a lot of their games.
Yeah,
Um, so it's weird to see them really kind of push Sonic a bit more, especially as stuff like Lost World and Colors really feel like they were really trying to keen in to that Japanese market share. And I think that having such a contrasting style and tone really put off a lot of Western Sonic fans.
Yeah.
Point is that now it seems like they actually are doing things that the larger Sonic fan base would appreciate. It's not to say that the Eastern Sonic fans' opinions aren't, entirely valid. It's just Sonic's identity has been very sort of Western focused. And just in general, Sonic's had a very different sort of philosophy under Yuji Naka that it has under Takashi Iizuka as like the primary, head of the franchise.
Yeah.
So even disregarding like cultural differences or where its etymology lies, it's just at that split the franchise went a different identity and
Yeah.
style.
Long story short, it definitely feels like we're entering a new era for the series' identity and
Yeah.
priorities, and I'm kind of digging it.
Yeah, I'm very. It's nice to be excited to be a Sonic fan again.
Yeah.
So I guess this would be a good time to start talking about the game. What do we think about how the game's coming out so far?
All right. Like I have a few mixed feelings on it, but the core gameplays, I'm starting to get kind of sold on it.
Yeah, I like the sort of ebb and flow of it. I do like having. I was never a big fan of the more combat focused 3D Sonic games like Heroes and Shadow, but I do think in this context they've managed to find a way to make those mechanics work in this sort of style.
Yeah.
Sonic weirdly does work in a more slow setting like this. The Mach Speed, Hedgehog engine, boost engine that we've had for the last decade and a half or so has made it kind of difficult to have level design and interactions that are a little bit more slowed down, a little bit more intimate in that sort of a way. So
Yeah.
being able to explore, problem solve, combat maneuvers. I mean, the combat maneuvers seem pretty straightforward, not a
But
whole lot of depth. But honestly, you don't need
like,
a lot of depth.
and the sheer fact that they have some variety in tactical options is already
Yeah,
like a pretty big step up from pretty much all Sonic combat in the past.
yeah, you're either boosting or you're homing attacking 80 times.
Yeah, maybe a bounce.
Or shift rock, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or you're using a pretty simplistic combo or gun.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh hey, they're kind of playing around with, if not necessarily complex, a, a bit more varied of a system to work with.
Yeah, it seems very inspired by I hate to say like Devil May Cry or like God of War, but it definitely seems like they're taking influence from some of the more quicker paced action combat style games.
Yeah.
And of course, Breath of the Wild, Souls style mechanics and all that stuff. It's a very interesting sort of way they're doing, especially with the what? Do you know what the name of the blue trail that follows Sonic is called?
I've not been looking that closely into specifics for reasons we've already stated. Like, I kind of
Yeah,
want to
but
be.
you guys know what we're talking about at home. It's when you can hit a button and you can make a blue trail follow Sonic, and then you can make a circle close around him, and that has a couple different utilities and features. So it reminds me a lot of like there's like one specific game that uses like that very exact mechanic. But I'm also thinking of like Okami. I guess would be another
Yeah.
one. I'm gonna eventually think of the name of the game where it's like you surround things in a circle. But yeah, let's just say Okami for the sake of simplicity. It's interesting to sort of add a mechanic into like that,
Yeah.
um, or like Epic Mickey or something. It's like a very odd mechanic, but it also feels very Sonic to do. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, the gameplay is like, I have questions about it. Like, I don't immediately know everything I'm going to be doing before getting into the game.
Yeah, kind of having a more open game does really create the option of, surprise and like what's the day to day, minute to minute gameplay gonna be. Whereas with a boost style game, it's like, yeah, you kind of know what you're going to be doing for most of the game. But there's a lot of intrigue, there's a lot of mystery about what experiences we're going to have. Um,
And like for the first time in who knows how long, I'm interested in where the story's going.
yeah. Like I said, we've tried to stay a bit away from the story, but we can kind of talk about what we've sort of gathered so far. Um, with this character Sage, who um, definitely has a lot of similarities to our pal Infinite, and it seems to even imply in the comics that there's um, definitely some deliberate homages to the past villains
Yeah.
with Sage. Um, I'm curious to see what their approach they're gonna go. If Sage is gonna be a situation where it's somebody from our Sonic's past, or if it's going to be like Sage was being taken advantage of by another character, which tend to be kind of pretty traditional stables for the franchise. But you
Yeah.
know, I'm not really too sure. It would be funny just to just go all in on the Sonic's gonna punch a human child in the face game. I mean, sure, why not? I don't know if they're gonna go with that though. I feel like there's got to be some kind of an angle,
Oh
or like
yeah.
an angle that's actually gonna be explored, unlike Infinite.
Yeah, like maybe she's being controlled by an exterior force. Maybe it'll be like kind of like a do-over of Infinite or the Deadly Six.
Yeah, I definitely feel like they really. It almost makes you wonder if Infinite was supposed to be here, but due to the fact that everyone makes fun of Infinite for being kind of lame, that they decided to take a character, just take the best of Infinite, but make their own original character. They OC'd an already existing character into another existing character.
Yeah, like when you look at the thematics and like the kind of nature of her powers at display, you really get the feeling that they wanted another swing at the concept, and they realized that Infinite was not going to cut it.
Yeah. Characters who are definitely getting their time to shine, though, are Sonic's friends. This has been a very exciting sort of experience to see Sonic's friends come back into a prominent role where they're taken with some respect.
Yeah.
Um,
The past
yeah,
decade has been a pretty bad time for anyone not named Sonic.
unless you played Sonic Colors DS, in which case you got a couple good moments and that's about it.
And that was also 12 years ago.
God damn it. Yeah, yeah, no, it's been rough,
Like,
Sonic Lost Worlds, Knuckles getting pushed into a tree,
I mean,
uh, everyone's dying.
uh,
This is why it's called War, Vector.
what?
Tails has lost it.
Okay, like, can we talk about that? Like, I don't think they've properly written Tails since 2006.
I don't think they've properly written Tails since 2001.
One. Yeah, I don't. Despite, like, I think my depiction, like, Tails finally getting a.
Okay, you know what? Fine, I'll give you 2003. I'll say that they wrote Tails correctly, they just cast him wrong for Heroes. But yeah, point is, it's been almost 2 decades.
It's been a long time since Tails has been not bad
Yeah.
in a game. I must preface. Like, I think Tails
Yeah,
is
we
fine in other
can't
media.
forget it. Can't forget about Cosmo. Can't forget about dancing to Bruno Mars.
Yeah, it really has been the games that have kind of struggled to give Tails a role because, man, especially Lost World and Forces kind of butchered the character.
Oh my god.
Lost
you
World
know,
Tails is something.
Lost World really is an interesting game. I would love to talk about in more detail with you guys. As Lost World is a game that we actually I think played over the pandemic, or
Yeah,
sometime around then. We actually played the game together, um, for the first time, and there was a lot we enjoyed, but the story did not. I did not change my opinion on the story. I think mechanically, a lot of the things I wanted that game did is actually coming to fruition in Frontiers, in
yeah.
terms of like more dynamic play style, more
Dynamic
nuance.
3D movement.
Yeah, stuff like that. I felt like when I played that game, I was like, damn, this is really the engine where Sonic can thrive. But the problem is it's stuck on the Wii U, so no one cares. But now it feels like Frontiers is really taking that sort of style. But yeah, no, they ruined Tails in that game. Um, so hopefully, if Tails is inoffensive and has some cute, wholesome moments here, then that's fine by me. You know, they're gonna they're gonna unjerk ass him like Homer Simpson has been. How they unjerk assed him.
Yeah,
Are we gonna? They should. If Sonic was allowed to swear again, there should definitely be a gag about. I'm surprised they would have a gag about. Wow, Tails, you really used to be a bit of a jerk ass back then. He got better.
yeah. And you know,
Only Shadow's allowed to swear.
if Knuckles is giving a modicum of dignity, this will be Knuckles' best in-game appearance since 2001.
Did you watch that prologue?
I watched that prologue and I
Yeah,
kind of got me
they
jazzed.
gave Knuckles some dignity. It's like wow, outside of the movie, you know, we could talk about the movie all day, but like the movie, I felt like really respected Knuckles, and I feel like this also really understands who Knuckles is. Not just oh look, he's in Sky Sanctuary, but like interacting with the Chow, his sort of like demeanor with them,
You kind of
his
get a
sort of
look at
standoff.
how he
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. No, they really kind of showed interest in, portraying him. He got a cool fight before he got jobbed.
Yeah,
And it's not like he didn't just punch one dude and get jobbed like other characters.
he didn't get killed off screen or lead an army of soldiers and lose 80% of its forces.
Knuckles, the war gen- he
Oh man,
committed a genocide victim.
yeah. Like, remember when Knuckles Zap Radigan his way through Sonic Forces?
Oh, you know what? Here's a weird question. So, is Forces canon for this?
Yeah, like,
How do you move on from Forces without completely retconning it?
yeah, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this would come off as some sort of soft reboot.
Like most Sonic games are pretty innocuous and can be kind of left to their own, regardless if they are or are not canon. Like Lost World story might suck, but it's not directly harming other Sonic games by its virtue of existing. It might be harming the character of Tails, but it's not like affecting things. Like Sonic Unleashed, I love its story. It's like it doesn't matter if it exists or not. It's not breaking the continuity for anything else. You know,
Forces,
as terrible as Generations' story was, it doesn't harm anything. It's over and done. But Forces radically changes the entire landscape of the franchise's lore and mythos. So they have to just be ignoring it.
yeah. Like, I don't see any good way of moving on from Forces.
Unless they really want to imply that like Eggman did wipe out basically every human, and that's why we're only gonna have animals now. And that's why we're in just random locations with the only living organisms being those like stone guardians.
Yeah.
Big the Cat's back, and
Big
they
has
finally
been,
figured out Big the Cat for the first time since 1999. Have they figured out what the hell Big the Cat is as a character?
yeah.
Okay, maybe his Lego Dimensions version wasn't that bad, but yeah,
Like, he's just some dude.
yeah, no, like especially if you ever listen to the Japanese version of the original Sonic Adventure, like there's a big difference between "I say Froggy, I'm coming," and "Oreto matere." Like that
Yeah.
sort of chill, like I'm just vibing kind of attitude is, matene. Yeah, just like I'm chilling out, dude.
Yeah, and
Like
we're definitely getting.
versus "Come in, Froggy, I'm coming." Sounds like he's got a fucking cold, man. Get some Mucinex.
Yeah, and now he's just kind of at peace with himself.
Yeah, no, I genuinely am happy to have a good version of Big the Cat. Now, I'm not gonna lie, his Team Sonic Racing characterization was funny as hell. Like, they really like decided they're just gonna overplay Big the Cat as a meme character, and that works in its own way. But I certainly respect them trying to make Big the Cat like an actual character and
And
not
cons-
just a goddamn walking punchline.
and considering that he's also going to be in Prime and that he's actually fitting a gameplay niche in this game, like Big the Cat
Yeah.
is now like in like the second tier of Sonic characters now.
I mean, he's been there for a while, perhaps through memes alone. I mean, look who got to be in Lego Dimensions and who didn't.
Yeah.
You know, Omega didn't get to be in Lego Dimensions. Rouge didn't get to be in Lego Dimensions, but Big the Cat, he got to be in Lego Dimensions.
Yeah. It feels like, dare I say it, a renaissance? Like, you know, last time we said there was a Sonic Renaissance, that was 2010, and that wasn't on a
No,
very.
I think Sonic and the Black Knight was '09 though.
Fine, I'll give you that one.
I'm very happy that my girl Amy, she's I haven't seen much of her yet, but she's gonna be helping out throughout the game, you know, talking through Sonic holographically. Oh, I do need to squash this real quick. Breaking news. I don't know if you've seen the discourse today about people talking about one of the articles and information that was translated from, I believe, a chat. I'm using a lot of extrapolation because don't have the source in front of me. But if you were on Twitter on the day of March 2nd, 2022, you know all about the Sonic and Amy is Sonic's girlfriend discourse, which is I believe I'm gonna take the assumption it's a mistranslation of the conversation, which isn't to say that like this couldn't be the game where like they decide to do something more with their characters, even though I'm pretty sure in the Sega Bible, uh, they're not supposed to. But you know, I could see this being a Mario Odyssey esque situation where they're not gonna necessarily go all the way, but they're at least gonna flirt with the concept a little bit more. Um,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't expect to see. Yeah, no, I think I think that's just a translation issue. Um, I think that people are reading way too much into the idea that Amy is Sonic's girlfriend. Especially because Amy is one of the few characters who I feel has had positive character development over the last decade or so, really kind of becoming her own person. So, you know, while it's okay to reach the point of her and Sonic being, from her perspective, being together, uh, you know, I don't want to necessarily see her character regress in a way,
Yeah, it's
but
perfectly fine for the characters to at least be closer.
yeah, I just think that the idea of people taking so much of a fuss out of a fucking Japanese article getting translated saying that Amy is Sonic's girlfriend and taking that as gospel, it's like, nah.
Not gonna happen.
Uh,
But,
well, not even that. I'm just not gonna use that as my source of evidence for the case. Um,
yeah. Regardless,
I
she
would
seems.
very
Oh, sorry.
no, you can keep going.
I was gonna say, regardless, she seems to have a relatively proactive role in this game.
Yeah, which is great. I'm very happy to
Mhm.
have more positive Amy interactions and interpretations. She needs them. She definitely needs them. Um, it's weird to say that like ever since Sonic Boom, Amy Rose has been on like an upward swing in terms of character development. Uh, the like boom of all things was the thing to bring Amy above where she is now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, let's keep rolling with it.
Okay. So, getting back to the gameplay, while we seem to have quite the divergence in the minute-to-minute gameplay, there are these sections in the game, hyperspace sections that
Cyberspace, by the way.
cyberspace Yeah, cyberspace levels, which are more traditional platforming sections.
They're not just traditional platforming segments, Joe. They are carbon copy recreations of old level design. And while it sounds like an inherently negative thing, it is a very surreal experience because it's not just. Now, a couple obvious ones are pulled. They have levels from Generations, they have levels from Forces, I think they have levels from Unleashed and Colors, but they also have level geometry, copied and recreated from the adventure games, which were never on a boost engine. So that's really interesting
Yeah,
because
if they
I
could
don't
do
know.
that, then it means that they have a lot of confidence in this Sonic's ability to control and do things.
Well, I was gonna go for the low hanging fruit of potentially that they're interested in making another product in the adventure era, whether a remake or a sequel. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, for the more constructive conversation of it, seems like if you have a Sonic who can move like in a very specific, like they're two very different kinds of speedy gameplay between like Adventure 2 and Unleashed or Generations, where Unleashed is more like a reaction time sort of a deal.
yeah,
um the adventure games were much more about, you know, you kind of being able to quickly navigate through the level design by well placed and well timed sort of maneuvers versus it's so hard to really describe them because like the adventure games you can take it slow, but you can't really take the Unleashed or anything like that slow. You kind of have
yeah.
to be constantly moving. So the ability to have level design that'll let you stop and smell the roses if you need to uh, is definitely refreshing.
I'd say like the adventure games are agile while the boost games are fast.
Yeah, I guess that would be accurate. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see if that bears fruit for anything else going forward. But I,
Does your
I'm
son?
not.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm not
shoot.
the biggest fan of the idea of the cyberspace levels. I think in execution they'll be fine. I think especially for an open world area, it can be nice to have a comforting, familiar style
Yeah.
with classic level design brought back. But I don't know. It's like I don't like that they just kind of only have a few assets and a few songs. They're not going to bring, you know. It's like why not just commit all the way and just make it the exact same? Why do you have to have the outside of like dev time or not being able to have the resources to recreate all the same backgrounds and music again? I don't know. It just seems a little. It's a very much a nitpick, but it's very much like it kind of sucks me out where I'm like, oh, it's Green Forest, but it's using Green Hill Zone. You know, maybe that's a bad example because like green and green, but you know what I mean. Like
If you know, you
it
know.
doesn't it doesn't feel like that original level because it's not using the same assets. And you know what's even weirder? I just realized as I'm saying that is that like why didn't they take the assets from Forces? Like they literally had White Jungle in Sonic Forces. Like White Jungle from Sonic Adventure 2 was, a new level area in Forces. So why not just use those assets? I don't know.
I don't know.
If
We're
there's a
just
new
gonna have to see how it all feels when you're doing it.
Oh, you know what? That is a random point I did just think of. You think we're gonna see a Shadow DLC for this one?
Oh. Yeah, that's interesting. Are they gonna do anything like extra like that?
I mean, they've already revealed that you pre-order the game or sign up for a newsletter, you get the soap shoes.
Yeah.
So it's quite clear that they have some plans for some kind of downloadable content. I guess it'll depend on if the game does well, but I mean, hey, I'd be down for that. Just give me more game on this engine, and then that gives you a little bit of wiggle room for working on next game. Maybe if I wouldn't be surprised if Shadow gets added as a free like character model or
Yeah.
something like that. But it would be cool if we get like actual like narrative Give us like a whole new island for like $20 or so, something like
Yeah,
that.
give them a little campaign, give them a few different combat attacks.
He can go to Prison Island. Well, that already blew up. You
Yeah,
can think of something. Think of something.
yeah. Like you could be a little creative with all these concepts at play here.
We'll go to the most original place for Shadow the Hedgehog to go. The ruins of the space colony arc. He's never done that before.
Ah man. And if if the recent history of Shadow hadn't been so spotty, maybe it would be interesting to go back to something like that after so long.
Yeah.
But going under our opinions of how the franchise has handled Shadow in particular, that's a long conversation.
Yeah, I don't even know if the current writing team could fix Shadow. Uh, the current guy is working on Frontiers. I think Sega has too many roadblocks that are going to make that difficult. So maybe it's better we just keep Shadow out of this until somebody gets it through their skull that we actually want the character to be the character and not Vegeta.
Yeah.
But probably why he's not in Prime either. IDW is like, we don't want to
Yeah.
use Shadow. Prime doesn't have Shadow.
Oh no, Prime has
Frontiers
Shadow.
doesn't have Shadow. Huh?
Yeah, no.
Wait.
Wasn't there a teaser for Shadow in Prime?
Oh yeah, he is going to be in there, but he's not like part of the
In the
main
main group.
cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a tertiary character like Big the Cat, who he's also voices by the same guy. It is weird that Rouge is going to be a more significant character in something than a Shadow. It's very odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh yeah, I remember the second teaser of Sonic Prime where it's just Shadow and Green Hill. God. Oh man. Yo, can I take 1 minute here and talk about how fucking terrible the marketing for Sonic Prime was at first, and then they just
Oh
drop all the good stuff near the end. It's like,
yeah.
dude, I thought this was gonna be complete ass, and then it's just Green Hill and Green Hill and Green Hill, and then like, oh, a month or two before the show comes out, it's like, here's the entire premise. It's actually about roboticizing Sonic's friends, and they have to form a military resistance group. It's like, what? I didn't get any of that from the trailer. I thought it was just Green Hill Zone. I thought it was just gonna be like any cheaply made kids
Yeah.
CGI animated cartoon on like Nickelodeon or something.
Yeah, no, it's
Bro, I thought I was getting Penguins of Madagascar here, not Sonic Sat AM.
are we getting both somehow?
Only if we get episodes focused just on Shadow and Gun. Omega status report. I don't have a
Yeah.
follow up to this. Oh wait, I don't have to worry about that voice. Because Shadow isn't voiced by Kirk. No disrespect, Kirk Thumpton. I think you were a fine actor. I think much like my opinions on Roger Craig as Sonic, it's not the actor. It is the directing and the cadence they are given is where my problem is. So hopefully Shadow sounds actually cool this time in Prime. Um, Anyway, getting back to the game and the subject we're actually supposed to be talking about, Frontiers. Yeah, I think the story is going to be cool. I think the gameplay seems like it's going to be really interesting. Um,
Yeah, nah, I'm just like fascinated by the whole ordeal. It's been a while since we had a good Sonic game. Oh, actually, it's been a while since we had a Sonic game.
yeah, been an unusually long amount of time. Uh, all right, Joe, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it.
Ooh, what are we talking about?
Got to talk about how fucking amazing this game's theme song is.
Which one?
Let's start with the opening theme. I'm here first. What's your take on that?
Alright, I've only heard it once, but I quite like it.
I think it's pretty solid. I think it works as like a title theme sort of song. Um, I think it reminds me a lot of how back in the adventure days and even like Sonic Heroes and stuff. Um, the title theme might not always be the biggest hitter compared to like the characters' specific themes. Like I think about like What I'm Made Of from Sonic Heroes versus Sonic Heroes the song, and it's like that's kind of the same vibe I'm getting here. Where
Yeah.
not to say I think Sonic Heroes is necessarily a bad song. Much like I'm Here is not a bad song, but it's definitely a little bit more trying to get you. It's more like a pump you up and like I'd say it's more of like a song for the kiddies kind of a deal. It's like overt lyrics about what the game's theme is, using words like frontier and all that. It feels a little more on the nose and a little bit more like a song you put in the trailer, which is ironic because it's not the song they put in the first trailer that they had music with. Um,
Yeah.
so like overall, I don't dislike it at all, and I think if the other song wasn't here, I'd probably be like much more about it.
Yeah.
Like if it didn't have such stiff competition in its own game, it'd be much higher up for me. But as it stands, I'm here. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It definitely gets a theme across. Definitely feels like a Sonic song. Um, I think it's not fair for what it's competing against. So,
Ooh, I just had a good idea for a future episode.
oh sweet. Now you're gonna vandalize my conversation with this discussion. So go on.
Yeah. So alright, some point, hold us to this. We are going to do a Sonic vocal track tier list.
I mean, I have no objections with that. That's gonna be really tough though with Sonic R. It's like, how do you rank those with everything else?
Oh yeah, now we're gonna need some extra tiers. Alright, so yeah, let's talk about Vandalize now.
Oh my god, that song is so good.
Yeah, that song quite slaps.
It is so good. It really makes me feel Sonic. It's the most Sonic song, and it's not even a song written for Sonic, but it just captures the Sonic mindset, the Sonic experience. This is a song that I'm surprised has not been used in Sonic AMVs up until now. Like, I'm surprised there were not Sonic Forces cutscenes set to this song. It just
Yeah,
fits so perfectly.
and it's a damn good song.
To quote on the down low, with his opinion about this song, where he in fact said, "This game is gonna suck my dick with how amazing this ending is gonna be when the song is playing," or to paraphrase him,
Yeah,
and that's true. My God, like it feels like you're having an out of body experience. I remember people were posting that Doctor Strange clip where he's like going through the multiverses and he's having an out of body experience set to the song. It's like, yeah, that's true. This song takes me to new planes of existence. It
yeah,
is transcendently good. It's like it's not just that it's like a catchy song and it's like upbeat. It just progressively keeps getting more and more like it keeps getting like crazier as it goes on. Like the way that the song kind of progresses. Like it starts out, rocking and awesome, and then it just kind of becomes this screaming ballad of just all this raw feeling. And it's like I can't wait for when I'm fucking up the final boss and I'm just hearing I'm freaking crazy. All that.
yeah.
Like, oh my god. And it's so funny because I've been listening to the song quite a lot, and it's like, is it? I think this is like a breakup song. So it's like I'm curious what that correlation's gonna have to like it definitely sounds like this is a song between like scorned lovers or like a somebody who's talking about their ex being crazy. So it's like I wonder how much that's gonna have to do with Sage. If Sage is potentially the scorned lover, or if Sage is the one talking about a scorned, love or something. Maybe Sage maybe Sage is like to call Gone Adrift or something, where like
Yeah.
Tikal and Chaos have this sort of dynamic between themselves, like caring for someone who's gone and lost their way, and with all these guardians coming to life, maybe Sage is trying to help, but became corrupted along the way, kind of a deal. And maybe Sage, this is a song from Sage's perspective. That's just conjecture. You know, Infinite got a theme song, talking about how edgy and cool they are. Which admittedly, that song was also a bop. Don't get me wrong, but it would be cool if Vandalize did have, since Sage's whole thing is like, corrupting the land, stealing Sonic's friends, putting him in like glass chambers and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
maybe the song is about Sage. Well, I think the song is actually about a bad breakup and relationship issues, but retrofitting it into Sonic, I'm curious if it's about Sage.
Yeah. Like, we're speculating about a Sonic game.
It's nice. It's nice to be invested in what the storyline's gonna be. To be invested. I haven't had an experience where I've been thinking about a Sonic game every other day for such a long time. Like, yeah, Sonic Forces I was excited for, but I think at the same time, like, I don't even think I was excited like that. Uh, I can't think of a time where I've been this excited for a Sonic game. Like, genuinely, like, before the game comes out, I'm just thinking about it all the time, waiting for it, anticipating it. Maybe not since Unleashed. I will say that some of the early gameplay trailers definitely give me a waiting for Sonic Unleashed vibe. Uh, so I don't know if you were there back when Unleashed was first coming out. If you remember that Missouri gameplay
Oh yeah,
video, I would rewatch that all the time.
I was there. I wasn't quite as captivated by it, but
I was obsessed. Like I was watching all the videos, I was listening to all the news. And of course, that game wound up being one of my favorite Sonic games, so it's quite fitting. I hope, if nothing else, I hope Sonic Frontiers is a really good game and really helps move the franchise away from the lesser areas it's been before.
yeah.
If at the very least we can just get some positive change and growth for the franchise, and that's all I really need.
Indeed.
We got fishing.
Yeah, we have fishing. I don't know what the fishing's gonna be used for, but we got it.
Oh, is it not weird that we don't have Chow this time?
It really feels like they've been dancing with the concept, especially since we just watched that Knuckles preview.
Yeah. Like, it feels like, of all games, this should have been the one to bring Chow back. And again, look, if they have a Shadow DLC and they bring the Chow in, all's forgiven. All's forgiven. If you gotta take time to get that thing ready, then fine. Go ahead. Take your time to make the Chow Garden. I'm not even a person who particularly likes the Chow, but I
They've been
know that people would lose their goddamn minds if, bro, just reprint the game. Just put a sticker on the cellophane that says now with Chow Garden. You know how many fucking copies they're gonna sell?
1 chow billion copies.
Like, I can tell you how many fucking people in my life would buy Sonic Frontiers who probably wouldn't be buying it otherwise if they announced the Chow Garden today was going to be in the game.
Yeah.
You know plenty of people. Chow
Yeah,
Garden
I just
transcends the Sonic franchise in a lot of ways. It is the perfect nostalgic thing for people who had that. And with us coming up on nearly 20 years since SA2, it's like, come on, man. It's Chow Garden. Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood doesn't count for like 18 different reasons.
Yeah. Like, they've definitely been flirting with the idea, and they're well aware about how many people want it.
You know, Joe, I unintentionally realized I have a perfect transition point now. Talking about that previous RPG. How do you feel about Sonic having a skill tree now?
You know what? I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, I think if they're gonna go with this approach, it makes sense. I mean, I don't necessarily dislike the very linear leveling system of Unleashed, but it was a little kind of boring. It only really a few stats really felt like you were getting improvements. So yeah, this works.
Like, you're gonna need some sort of progression system in a game like this.
Yeah,
And if that progression system gives you more interesting ways to interact with the world and the enemies and stuff, then that's all the better.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess I might as well pose the question: are you going to be picking up this game at launch, Joe?
I'm gonna have to see how I'm doing the day of. Man, I might actually have to check my PC specs and see if I can run it. I mean, I'm sure I can run it, but like how well?
Yeah, man, that's going in day one for me. I am. If I had time off, some extra time off, I would absolutely take a day off just to play Frontiers.
Like
I
that,
am so fucking excited for
like
it. I'm more excited than anything else coming out. Like, Pokemon actually looks good for the first time in a while, and that's a conversation we'll have in a couple weeks. But yeah, Sonic just takes the cake for me. I am
like
so ready.
if I get this game at launch, this will be the first 3D Sonic game I get launch window since Generations.
It's a long time, buddy.
Yeah, because since then it's like the only Sonic game that really grabbed me was Mania.
To be fair, if you're buying, games on a, if you're buying them on the main consoles, you've only had one other 3D Sonic game between now and then. It's not a port.
Yeah,
Generations, Forces, and then Frontiers. If you're not counting Colors Ultimate, you're not, you know, Lost World ain't on the friggin' anything besides. I mean, it is on Steam, but you
yeah,
kind of get what I mean. Coming out like 2 or 3 years after on Steam doesn't count for anything.
yeah. Oh, it just kind of feels like a big event. Like
Feels hype.
it feels like the next step.
So Joe, where are we gonna find Team Chaotix trying to when we have to go find their NFTs after they get stolen? You gotta find my 10 NFTs. Charmy went and left our password out on our Reddit account, and now everyone's got my bored apes.
Man, I'm imagining you running around collecting hexagonal NFT tokens.
Sonic, what's an NFT? Is it on a secret disc? I know what those are now.
You have to complete the NFT challenges, and they're just
Yeah.
cyberspace versions of the heroes missions from the Chaos missions from Heroes.
Oh god.
Except you're collecting NFTs instead of crabs.
No. Oh god, if they have Mystic Mansion where you gotta light like 60 lanterns, you gotta find 60 NFTs.
Uh,
You gotta use 60 crypto ATMs.
uh,
And then afterwards, that's where Shadow comes in. After you collect all the NFTs, Shadow will steal them. This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me. And then he smashes the computer, which does not actually get rid of the NFTs, though.
yeah, they're non-fungible.
Damn, I couldn't funge them. Well, I think this has become a. I think this is derailing.
Yeah, I think that's a sign that we've kind of exhausted our takes on Sonic Frontiers.
I mean, I got a lot more to say, but I think I'm
Oh,
more in the actual exhausted sense. Like, I could go on, but I think at this point we've hit a lot of our big feelings on what we are leading into it. So I guess let's round it off with overall, how are we feeling going in?
I'm. I was leaning towards cautious optimistic, but I think I'm just kind of optimistic.
I am incredibly optimistic for it. I'm still like in the back of my mind, like prepared for this game to be bad, or at worst, incredibly mediocre. But I I feel like this is gonna be a good game. I feel like from everything I've seen, it can't be worse. It can't be more of a letdown than Forces. And I feel like even on its base level, even if it does the things I'm excited about poorly, I still think it's gonna be a more influential game and more meaningful game than really anything we've had in the last decade.
Yeah,
Like Sonic 06 might be a fundamentally messy game, but the things its ambition and the thing it tries to do win me over more than a technically better put together game, you know. For me, 06 is more meaningful than like Generations because
yeah,
while Generations is a great level design, it's a nothing burger. Just go play level and go home.
yeah.
So I am, at the very least, this is going to be a fun ride, even if it doesn't turn out great. But I think it will.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. If it's not, you'll hear you'll hear back from us soon.
Yeah. Depending on how the rest of the year goes, you might hear us have our Sonic Frontiers review.
Yeah, that's something we might do.
Well, hopefully you guys let us know what you're thinking about Frontiers. Let us know if you're picking up the game. And
Your
yeah,
thoughts
everything
on it
like
going
that.
in. And we'll meet you back at the table.
At Sonic Speed.